Gather around. It's time for the show to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, this is...
Hey everyone, my name is Jason.
Hi friends, it's Desiree Josen.
Alright, there were so many matches this year that were just too much.
So this won't be a shocker because we've had a handful of really awesome matches that we just can't stop talking about.
How many times have these guys fought? It's been quite a bit.
I've been saying this all year. They're just so great to watch. We saw the heel turn coming, and then when it happened, nice and bloody, both dramatic and beautiful.
You are now entering the ring with Chutes and Ladders podcast. Here are your hosts, Desiree and Jason.
Chutes and Ladders, WWE Championship titles, prizes or props. What's going on, everyone? My name is Jason.
Hi friends, it's Desiree Josen.
Championships used to feel like the ultimate validation. Now, sometimes they feel like accessories to the storyline. Are belts driving stories or the stories carrying the belts? Des, what are your initial thoughts?
I think today they flipped the formula, basically, of just making... I think we're losing value of the importance of a belt and a championship where they're just numbers, or they're, like you said, it's just playing a prop to the actual character. So I feel like it's losing its value right now.
100%, and we're going to go over through a couple of talking points. First one is when championships meant everything. Des, let me ask this. Take us back. When you think about a time when championships felt sacred, when the belt was a story, what stands out to you?
For example, my background, it's the 80s and 90s. It's when you think of a championship reign, a championship title, or just wrestling history, you think of the guy, the top guy. You think of Hulk Hogan. You're thinking of Macho Man and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Those kind of guys that built the value of the brand as well as the actual title itself. And I feel like back in the 80s and 90s, that's when it was cherished most. And it was, there's a lot of moving factors when it comes to that, but I feel like it was less titles. So it was like the ultimate validation of that wrestler and not just a checkpoint in their career and storyline, just to say, okay, I got the title, let's go. It was where the big time was. Like, that was the end goal, was you were always fighting to hold that title. And titles were rare, they were protected, and they were career defining.
Yeah, and speaking of that, sometimes you'll see certain title reigns that last just a couple of months. Sometimes they last for years. We saw that with Roman Reigns. Sometimes that holds weight, sometimes it doesn't. What are your thoughts as far as the length of a run?
To be honest, I don't think a length of a run really matters. I mean, if it's 24 hours, that one's, that one is kind of off. That's a one-off. But even with Roman Reigns, for him to hold it that long, it was very exhausting and tiring and boring and very predictable. And I get it, for storyline and just for that time, that may have been the best suit for someone to hold that title, but I really don't think a time frame really matters. Like, you don't have to hold it for a year for it to be meaningful. You can have it for a couple of months and make it make sense if it means it's the better of building a story and for your character evolution.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Now, let's talk about the importance of WrestleMania. Des, when did WrestleMania stop feeling the ultimate championship destination and start feeling like just another stop on the calendar?
I feel like it's been very recent, to be honest, because I feel like the 80s and 90s Attitude Era, even ruthless aggression, that was always the key point of like those big Mania matches. Because when we think of WrestleMania, we're thinking of the main event. This is for the title match. This was the build-up. And we're going to either see our guy win or our guy lose. And that's what makes those big, impactful, historical moments. And I feel like we're losing it now. And it's more or less of what rivalry. We're looking more at storylines rather than actual title matches. And I feel like it's just because there's so many. And then there's multiple brands. And the fact that there's multiple world championship holders that we're losing focus on one or the other. So it's a lot of flip-flop and a lot of creative digging their hands into what else can we bring, and it's more of a celebrity attraction now and the actual focus on the gold.
Again, you said it perfect. Yeah, you definitely said it perfectly. And listen, there have been articles out there. It seems like the WrestleMania 40 honeymoon is over. That was the last time where everyone was so indulged of Cody finishing the story. And since then, yeah, it's definitely kind of dropped off a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Now, as far as influential title reigns of the past, Des, who are the reigns that defined eras for you? The ones that made the title feel bigger than life?
I think these are really obvious, and I feel like these would be for any wrestling fan. It would be Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton, and just like we could name them. They are just like the faces of ones that held them with pride, but they earned them. And it made sense for their character at that time. And they weren't the same person every time they won. They were something that was elevated. They were a heel. They were a face. They were the company guy. And when you say WWE, WWF, those are the guys. They are the Mount Rushmores. And now I feel like we're just like hot potatoing stuff. But, I mean, we're not discrediting the champions today. I know they've earned it, and this is where we are now creatively and business-wise, but I just feel like we're losing the little sparkle.
Sure, and were those reigns about booking consistency, star power, or both?
I think it was both.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because ultimately, proper booking is what makes any type of championship run. At the same time, I mean, most of these guys were stars, if not, and if they weren't stars, they'd actually take the title right off of them. I mean, I'm thinking about like a Kofi Kingston. He had a decent run, but I think, they struck while the iron was hot when he beat Daniel Bryan, but I think they kind of knew it really wasn't working, so they took it off him, and he really hasn't even been in the same conversation for a title run. But at the same time, yeah, they're guys that are kind of elevating, flip the script with Daniel Bryan. They had to give him a brief run, but then 2 years later, they made him headline WrestleMania, and he was the guy. So I kind of think, I'm actually with you, I think it's both.
Yeah, I just feel like there are some people that just have that extra it factor, and they just run with it, and that's one of the smartest things that they can do is strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as far as the problem today, let's flip it. What's the disconnect today? Why don't the championships feel as important?
I feel like it's like I mentioned before, there's multiple titles.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. Sometimes it feels like it's watered down.
There's so many. And then the fact that we are dealing with Raw and SmackDown championships, and not saying that some or all championship title matches have to be on Mania or a big pay-per-view, but I feel like when they put them on Raw and SmackDown a little bit more than needed, it kind of loses the power behind it, where I feel like those weekly shows should be the build-up. Like, cut the promos, tease us, and then give us the match that we want to see a couple of weeks down the line.
100%, and because of ratings and them chasing ratings and being contractually obligated to provide good content for ESPN or USA Network, they have to change these titles. I've said this many times. It's interesting to me that there have been title changes on a SmackDown, for example, like the US title or tag team titles, and I just kind of scratch my head and say, why don't they just do this as a PLE? Because otherwise, what is the purpose of building the PLE and making people subscribe to ESPN Plus? It doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Now, granted, once in a while, throw it in there, for a big one or something that makes sense. But I don't think it's necessary more than 2 to 3 times a year to do like a major title change.
Yeah, 100%. Now, as far as the mid-card titles, Des, when's the last time a mid-card title actually anchored a storyline instead of being background decoration?
It's been it's been many years, I'm going to be honest. Like, when I was growing up, the IC title was a big deal to me. It was like the working man's title. It was like a working horse. And I actually have that that's one of the titles that I have that I spent a lot of money on was the Shawn Michaels IC title belt, because I was like, look at this, he earned it. And at the time, that was a big deal, because that next step was that world title. And even the Winged Eagle belt. It's like we don't focus on the belts anymore. And even for the US Championship, look how I love that they're giving people chances to win something. But on SmackDown every Friday, they're doing like an open championship for that. I'm like, don't do that. I feel like it's just losing its value. It's just like the 24/7 belt. Just stop. But I feel like we're losing a lot of value with those mid-card titles.
Yeah, I agree. And what's funny is you talked about the IC title. Remember, the US title one was on WCW or NWA. I mean, it was the same thing, just on a different show. So the fact that they are kind of watering that down, it doesn't feel too good either, and it definitely kind of brings the overall value of these mid-card titles, just like you said. And every single SmackDown, I mean, it's almost like they're forced, because from a writing standpoint, they don't know what else to do. So they're like, all right, let's just have a US Open Challenge. And then you have to switch the title every once in a while, otherwise that will get stale too. So they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place in that aspect.
Yeah, and at this point, I say if you really don't know what to do with it, either put it in the right hands that can run with it, even though it's very generic, or just vacate it for a little bit, and let's put it to the side until we actually have something that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, as far as lack of title matches by the actual champions, this is a hot topic. Des, how do we feel about champions barely defending?
Okay, this is very complicated. I get it that we have to preserve the champion for big pay-per-views, PLEs, for Chamber, for WrestleMania. We have to have that build up. But I think that they still should have some kind of visibility to show that they've earned it, they can protect their title, and that they are the number one person on top. To the point where we forget that they are the champion. And I am guilty of it for Jade.
I was just about to say, I'm not going to lie, of all the stars that were given so much hype, she's been a huge disappointment. I thought putting the title on her would have changed that, and it's done the exact opposite.
Yeah, and it was really disappointing, because there was this buildup for so long. And then she had her injury. Granted, she couldn't help that. But when she came back and she won, we're like, this is it. We're going to see this powerhouse, Storm from X-Men. And, I'm expecting to see this superhero really prove and dominate the women's division. And all she's come out, she's come out, stood over him, and, knocked him out and left. And I'm like, that doesn't do anything. Do something. And I want to see you on the mic. I want to see some really cool vignettes. I want to see you do like a really awesome 5-star match, which I know you're able to do. But to the point, a couple of weeks ago, they shot her holding the title, and I completely forgot that she was the champion. Yeah, I feel like that's not okay.
100%. We've seen Brock barely defend the title in the past, as well as Roman Reigns, and when he did, the bloodline would come in, so it got stale in itself. But yeah, this is definitely an issue. They want to preserve certain guys or gals, but that doesn't do the product or the title any justice. So that is something that I wish they changed.
Right. And I know we sound like hypocrites right now, because we just said the U.S. Championship for the men's was being overworked, and every Friday too many title matches, and then saying something about the women's division and Jade, only having 1 or 2 matches. But I think it's like you have to find that equal balance of make it make sense, and why are they champion?
Yeah, exactly. Or just like you said, also, you have to come out every week and actually, tease, create storylines, talk smack to your competitors. And she's kind of done that. Like Jade, I don't want to continuously pick on Jade, but yeah, she's kind of done that. But it's been the same thing over and over again. And, when Brock was a champion, Paul Heyman would do all the talking, and then, Roman wasn't the best on the mic back then, so that didn't do that well. But yeah, this is something I'm with you. They kind of have to have an equilibrium, i.e. John Cena. John Cena, love him or hate him, the one thing I will say, when he would come out cut amazing promos, and it'd be a good 15 to 20 minutes of solid television of him just talking like he does.
That's all we needed.
That's literally all we needed. So I kind of think we need, yeah.
Yeah, look at Drew. Look at Punk. Even Tiffany, when she held the belt, she was out there showing face. It's like, why? I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that.
All right, and Des, let me ask it straight. Is the belt the problem or the creative the problem?
I think we already know. It's creative. We know it is. You know, the biggest heels in WWE is the creative team. And it's, you know, I get it. It's a business strategy for them. They are, and I get it. The roster is so big and so talented that they want to give more titles. And, you know, we love a good title match. But I feel like it's just oversaturated. And if we can't think of a good creative strategy, storyline, or even just evolution of, you know, why is this person defending their title? Where is this rivalry going? Is it going to lead to Mania? Is it going to lead to something else? I just feel like sometimes they just get lost in the mix.
And then should we bring back legitimate contender rankings or tournament systems to make title shots feel earned in terms of being the number one contenders for certain titles?
Yeah, I feel like we should always have, like, there's always been a true number one contender. Yeah. When you think of those past, you know, feuds growing up, and there was always that heat between Bret and Shawn and The Rock and Stone Cold and Vince. It was just very clear who was shooting for the belt and who was always clawing for it. Look at CM Punk and Drew and what we're dealing with today. It's very clear, and sometimes it is redundant, but it's, you know, it's safe. But I feel like if we're just throwing people into a mix every week or every couple of weeks, we're kind of losing ourselves at the end of the day, you know, with the big picture of who is it going to end with. And I get it. They want us on our toes to surprise us, but I think they're so busy with trying to throw us off because social media is so active right now with us fans predicting things that I feel like, I'm like, just go with what actually is going to be really good.
100%. I mean, and listen, those are storylines in itself as far as a group of guys or gals being the number one contender. They basically would spin off and have side storylines if those two individuals wouldn't make it and such. So yeah, there's so many ways they can kind of go about it. But again, from the beginning of time, yeah, you're right. It's a very safe storyline, but it's always going to be evergreen. So they should definitely take advantage of it.
Yeah.
All right, now as far as protecting title changes for PLEs only, Des, should major title changes be reserved strictly for PLEs to rebuild prestige, or do surprise TV wins still have value?
I'm super biased. I love for them to be saved for big PLEs, and especially if we're going to have them every few weeks, I would say. Like if we're going to have a Saturday night main event, and then a couple of weeks later we're going to have a Chamber, or we're going to have WrestleMania or SummerSlam, then build upon those and give us that big match that we're waiting for. I feel like if they are constantly on Raw and SmackDown, it loses the value and the quality. Not saying that it always has to be, but I would personally prefer them for the big Saturday night show.
Yeah, and I'm under the, if that were me, if I'm booking, I would do either a 75-25 or 80-20%. Yeah. Where 75 to 80% would be on PLEs and 15 to 20, right. Or 15 to 25, if you want to call it that, would be on just your weekly shows.
Yeah, and I enjoy like a random Money in the Bank cash in. Look at Tiffany; she did it on a SmackDown right before a PLE, and it made sense. And I was like, I wasn't expecting that, and that was a damn good Friday night. So those things work, but not every Monday and Friday.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, and now what now, Des? If you were in creative tomorrow, what's your business strategy to make belts matter again?
I would just cut back. I really would. I would step back and be like, who is the powerhouse of this company in the men's and women's division? Who is actually best all around, and who is the crowd really pushing for? And then set it up that way. And then, because we have, our own opinions with who should have that world title match, who should be the one pushing for it, And, we're not going to name any names because you've already heard us say it. But it's like, set them up and give us that big build that we're wanting. I don't know. I just feel like there's a little bit too much going on where we just really need to focus on the belts itself.
All right, that actually wraps up this episode. What are your thoughts? Are titles, prizes, or props? Shoot us a DM at the Shoots and Ladders. And like always, please like, share, and subscribe both on YouTube and Spotify. Once again, my name is Jason.
I'm Desiree Josen.
All right, until next time, have a blessed day and a blessed week.
Have a great week. Bye, friends.
This has been Shoots and Ladders. Follow us for more content.